So for a while now I've had a real urge to get my hands on a retro PC to play all sorts of 90s games such as Doom or Duke Nukem 3D. And I wasn't really feeling the eBay prices that they were going for, so I just decided to wait it out because these old PCs are pretty common. Pretty much anyone old enough to have one has probably got one rotting away in their attic, so I'm definitely not paying extortionate prices for someone's so-called refurbished Windows PC on eBay. And lo and behold, the wait paid off. I didn't know what was on it, I was told they couldn't load it up for whatever reason, so it just hadn't been used for many years, let alone turned on. These are photos I took of it the day it was offered to me. It turned on straight away, which was a good sign when I first tried it, and to my happiness I realised it was a Windows 95 computer. Great, so should just be straightforward from here, right? Well, the computer wouldn't load up, exactly like what they told me. It would just hang on the Windows 95 logo and not get any further. I assumed the PC had a corrupt Windows 95 installed, so the night I got it home, I tried to freshly install Windows 98 onto it, as I had the disc for 2nd edition, and well, I personally prefer 98 SE to 95. I got halfway through the Windows 98 SE installer, and it would just freeze like that. I thought that was strange. I tried it countless times, opened up the computer to see if the RAM was seated properly, reseated it anyway, cleaned the fans, made sure all the wires were in properly, but it would just not stop hanging. First of all, I decided it was the 1999 hard drive that was inside because it's so old. It was only 8.5 gigabytes anyway, so I decided to swap it with a bigger hard drive. I swapped it to a 200 gigabyte drive from 2013 that I had laying around, partitioned it to two 16 gigabyte partitions so that it was compatible with Windows 98, and surprisingly, the install went through. I loaded it up and well, it just hung on the Windows 98 boot screen, just like before. This was 2 evenings after work into this project and I was not having a good time. I even went to Reddit for help, tried different video cards, tried it with different RAM, checked the CPU, and long story short, after multiple days of stressful brainstorming, I came to the conclusion, well, it was the motherboard. There was no other reason I could think of, and even though the motherboard looked perfectly fine in itself, I decided to rebuild it from the ground up with new parts. With parts from other machines I had laying round. I actually had found a fairly new Intel board from my old main PC build that was in the box. This motherboard I had a few years back and, well, it was just what I needed apparently. As I read up, it was Windows 98 compatible, despite being from early 2010. So I took everything out and had the daunting task of beginning to rebuild the entire thing. Kept the case and just rebuilt everything inside. So I took everything out and began to rebuild with an assortment of parts, old and new, that I had laying around. Put in a fairly newer Intel Celeron E3300, which I didn't know I had, and I didn't even know if it was going to be compatible because it was dual core, but I tried it anyway. Decided that I only needed 512 megabytes of RAM, and because I just wanted to be safe, I stuck with that. Applied a new heatsink, new fan, put in a new DVD and floppy drive, recycled a power supply I had from another machine, put in a Sound Blaster Live card, and finally I put in the hard drive, which was the same as the one I installed 98 SE on, because theoretically I wouldn't have to install it again, it should just load in, right? Well, anyways, I turned on the machine for the first time, and it turned on, it worked, it loaded into Windows 98 SE first time. Oh, I was so relieved at the time. It took me 5 days of endless attempts trying to get this thing up and running. All I needed to do now was find the drivers and off I went. I'm still having issues with the DVD drive, so I couldn't install them from the disk. So I just took the entire hard drive out and plugged it in with an adapter into my main PC and dragged the files across from there. Anything I did now was child's play compared to the horror of not knowing what was wrong with this old PC before. Well, on went the games I wanted to try. Doom, Duke Nukem 3D, South Park Rally, underrated game by the way. Another thing to note as well, I had some issues with the drivers not being compatible, but it seems to fix those when I use the unofficial Windows 98 Service Pack installer, which you can get online for free. You just have to let it run and it does everything for you. I went ahead and bought an Aiyama CRT monitor off of eBay from a charity auction to go with this, and I'm really pleased how it looks. I now have a Windows 98 SE machine just like I imagined it. So what do you think? Have you ever had to restore a piece of kit like this? Or did you like this video and just found it interesting? I'm hoping to do more hardware videos. I really like old tech, and I think it would be nice for me to talk about old things that are not just internet related for once. Let me know anyway. Thank you for watching, see you next time. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. I'm so close to hitting 4K subs at the time of this video, so I do really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching.